All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Livin The Dream video podcast. It's a place to celebrate the success of our great graduates at the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting. My name is Rishi Barran. I've been at the school pretty much since it started off, and it has been an honor to work with people like Scott Kirk. He is now the sports anchor and reporter over at WDAM-TV in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Scott, that smiling face, something we've missed around campus, but we're glad to see it on TV in Mississippi and all the great stuff you post on social media. Thanks for making some time for me today in the middle of a busy schedule as you get ready for the high school football season.
Oh, of course. We're really excited down here in Mississippi for high school football, and I miss you guys all the time in Orlando at Full Sail. I've gone back a couple of times to see some friends, and it's hard to like not go in there, but family and stuff. But I think about you guys all the time, and I've learned real quick football is built different in Mississippi. I had no idea, and I don't know what they're feeding the boys, but it works. It's been pretty fun.
It's funny that yesterday in class, one of our students, Cole Eckert, he was doing a debate about, and the question was, what state produces the best high school football? And his answer was Mississippi, mostly because of per capita, what it does. So we can get into that a little later, but I'm going to throw that out there for you because we're going to talk a lot of football with you in a bit, but we'll start way back in the day. Where did the dream begin for you?
Yeah, I feel like the dream kind of began when I was a kid, but I think it was realized when I was a teenager. I'm always gonna remember like my first ever like sports game that I watched. It was a Marlins game, and I remember walking into my dad's like den in his bedroom, and he had the Marlins and the White Sox on, and I remember seeing Cody Ross take the at bat. He's always been my favorite player. It would be that way. And people think Cody Ross, like, yeah, he won the World Series MVP, but he wasn't exactly like a Hall of Fame superstar like a Bryce Harper or Derek Jeter. But like for me, it was always Cody Ross. I just really loved his game. And then I became a fan of baseball, obviously, and I caught up with it a lot. And as a kid, my aunt always told me that I would never shut up. And I would just talk a lot and stuff. I guess I never realized it, but she was probably right. And it just like getting older, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I would say that like in school, it kind of showed that way. Like, I was really, I was good to my friends. I was never disruptive, but I was just kind of like lost in my academics and everything. And, when I was like 14 in high school, freshman, still didn't really have a clue. And I would say that my grades kind of reflected that a little bit, but I do remember it was kind of a summertime heading into my sophomore year of high school. And I was kind of sitting in my room, and I was just kind of thinking to myself, like, what can I do, to, you know, lift myself out of this? Should I go to the military, maybe, like when I'm older? Should I maybe work in the airline business, like, so some of my family does? And I was actually listening to the radio while I'm thinking, and I'm like, wait a minute, why have I never thought about this? Like, I could do something like this. That would be fun. How do you do something like that? And then that's when, the ball and the wheels started rolling. I left my baseball team, and I actually joined drama because I figured if I'm going to talk for a living in some capacity, I need to be comfortable talking. That changed my life. Joining the drama club changed my life. There were some things that I didn't really need, but there was a lot of things that helped me. Getting more comfortable, being open. I think I became a completely different person. I'm not really afraid of much anymore as far as doing stuff in public and, speaking out loud.
You learned a lot in our program with vocal training techniques, but I imagine in drama, it was a similar type of coaching in terms of how to connect, how to use your expressions and voice. What were some of the, I guess, cornerstones of your time in the drama program that led to future success?
I really love doing improv because it made me think on my feet. And at the time, I didn't know how the guys on the radio did their show. I didn't really know much about producers or anything, so I just kind of thought they showed up and talked. So like I always thought that improv was super important, and obviously think everybody needs to have a little bit of humor. Everybody doesn't need to, but I think for me it just makes me a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more better. So I would always, try to really showcase that. And I think it was also really like, again, being super uncomfortable. There were things that made me really uncomfortable, but like I got comfortable doing them because I was like, look, if I can do this and like, speak in a high pitched voice and wear a fake mustache and do something, stupid on the stage that my friends will laugh at me for, I can do anything. So, it really, it was getting uncomfortable. I think probably one of the bigger cornerstones in drama.
Well, I know something that was comfortable for you even earlier was PlayStation and playing sports video games. And I've heard that's where your sportscasting career really started with your own impromptu commentary. If we were to listen to like 9, 10-year-old Scott Kirk, what would we have been hearing during these epic PlayStation battles?
I'm happy you mentioned that because my conscience forgot to remember that. I haven't done that in a while now. But yes, I would do that too as a kid, and that's what kind of hit me during that conversation to myself at almost 15 years old. But yeah, I would play MLB The Show. That was like the first sports video game I played, and it would just be kind of late at night over at my nana's house, and I'd be in the den, and I would just literally play a 9 inning baseball game and do the whole game, and like of course these video games have their own storylines, they have their own stat numbers, sometimes their own fake players, and it would be like my own broadcast. And I never really realized what I was doing until I got older. It was just me talking, entertaining myself. And then I got older. I was like, hey, I've done that. Like, how do I do this for a living?
I know that feeling, Scott. I have stat books back at my mom's house of playing Nintendo game called Bases Loaded, and they didn't keep stats on it. They had stats kind of going into the season, but it wasn't like season stats. So I have these books of these stats of how many home runs guys had. Actually, even with Sega Genesis, which was also before your time, but we played this game in the Texas Rangers. I remember we had like Rafael Palmeiro and Juan Gonzalez and guys like that, Ivan Rodriguez on the Rangers, and their stats were pretty good. So I know that feeling broadcasting, doing all that, but you also grew up someone, as you mentioned earlier, that was really into the Marlins, which is an interesting team to follow because it's been like when they're at their heights, they're unbeatable. And then when they're at their lows, they're really low. How have you enjoyed that roller coaster?
It's humbled me my whole life. I would say like, I think it's just kept me loyal. The Marlins. Honestly, I think like my favorite part about the Marlins is just sharing it with my dad. He's the one that really got me into a lot of things. He's taught me a lot of things in life, and my mom has too. My mom's not really as into sports; we're into different things, but I've always loved talking about the Marlins with my dad. And they really tick me off sometimes. And I've never really experienced like winning a World Series. I was like a year old in 2003 when it happened. My favorite season was last year when they made the playoffs. That was a whole lot of fun. But it kind of hit me that when that happened, it was my first year here in Hattiesburg. So like he wasn't really there. We had to just kind of talk on the phone. So I mean that was a little bit like I never got to go to a game with him last year, but it was a lot of fun. But I think overall being a Marlins fan, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's gonna pay off one day. When they win a World Series, when they start becoming a dynasty, and people always rag on us. They say our attendance is not good. Miami's it's a different kind of town. When you win, you show up. But people always say move the Marlins out of there. They don't know what they're talking about. I mean, we have a 20-year lease on that phenomenal stadium.
That's beautiful.
Miami's it's a perfect city. It's a baseball town. It really is. A lot of talent comes from there. I just think we've had some poor ownership. But if I ever work for them, I think the ownership's great. So.
Yeah, we'll make sure they don't see this interview at the beginning of. Well, hopefully, ownership will have changed at that point. Who
Yeah,
knows? Who knows
yeah.
what will happen, Scott? Most of your teams are Miami based, but I know you're also a big Jets fan, and it's kind of an interesting situation growing up in Dolphins territory with being a fan of one of their chief rivals. How did you handle that?
So when I was a kid, I was always kind of sad. I was just kind of like, oh, like my friends like the Dolphins. Everyone likes the Dolphins. Everyone just like makes fun of you like for liking the Jets, And I kind of did like a self check, like, am I really a Jets fan? Figured out I was because I wasn't really another feeling for any of the team. But then it kind of made me tough, and it started to become fun. Like it started to become really fun. Like, yes, sometimes the Dolphins would beat us, but like occasionally when the Jets would come in there and win, like it felt really good. And it kind of became a thing where I almost like being the outcast as far as that stuff goes. It was really fun to hear the Dolphins fans complain and stuff and go back and forth. I really enjoyed that. And I remember standing up as I got older, like, yeah, I'm a Jets fan. So what? You know?
That's Scott Kirk. He is a passionate sports fan. He's also a sports anchor and reporter at WDAM in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Scott, you touched on this earlier that sports are really about relationships in a lot of ways, right? We all root for teams with different colored clothing, and we adhere to that clothing, and that's who we root for, no matter who's wearing it. But you mentioned your relationship with your dad and how that influenced you. How do the emotions of sports tie into relationships that you have in your own life?
I would say they're huge. I mean, seriously, my whole life is dedicated to this. You know, it's kind of hard to describe and think about too. But you know, I watch a game on TV. Whether it be the Miami Hurricanes, Marlins, Jets, and my dad and I are always texting back and forth, while they're complaining or smiling for joy. And then I think about the friends that I've made in my life, and it was all dedicated to this, whether it's in school, people along the business, people who I get to work with. Maybe they don't work at the station, maybe they're writers over in Hattiesburg, but we become really good friends. And I think to myself, like, okay, I've been pretty lucky to experience these cool things and have these memories with people that I probably wouldn't have met if I wasn't here.
Well, then you met a whole new batch of people when you headed our way to Winter Park, Florida, in the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting. You shared when you kind of hit that realization of, wow, I could do something like these people are doing on in the radio. But what made you actually decide to sign up to come to see us?
Yeah, I'm not gonna forget that. So I was still in the drama club, and I was transitioning to my senior year. I was gonna be the president at this point of the club, and it was the summertime, and I guess I've always had that little grinder like in me, but it was the summer, and our activities director at the school asked me to come in a couple times during the summer and just like work the sound booth in the theater, um, literally for nothing. I mean, maybe I got some like brownie points out of it, but I didn't get any service hours or anything like that. And it was just for a bunch of teacher meetings over the summer. But I went there, and it was for like 4 or 5 hours sometimes. But I guess it paid off because I was just looking at like stuff for school because it gets pretty stressful at that time when you're transition to be a senior. And I was just looking up sportscasting schools, of course, Northwestern, Syracuse, a bunch of these schools, and I was like, oh man, like, it's gonna be tough. And then I saw earlier that year the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting opened up, or I guess at this point it was a year before in 2019, or it was 2019. The school opened 2018, and I was like, wait a minute, like, what's this? And I like a lot of other people watched Tyler's video on YouTube, and I was kind of sold. I was a little skeptical. I mean, it was hard not to be at first because it was so brand new. Never heard of the school. I've heard of Full Sail from WWE, like a lot of the kids, but I was still like, huh, you know. Then I thought to myself, like, okay, school just opened up, but if we go here, make the most out of it. They might not have like alumni like Tarico and Costas at Syracuse, but you can be the Scott Kirk that came from Full Sail. Like you can be that guy. I was like, yeah, I'll do that. Booked the tour. My parents and I went to Orlando, and I knew that was where I was going to go. I knew it. I had some counselors maybe try to convince me otherwise, and I would just be like, yeah. Yeah, I'll apply somewhere else. I don't know if I'm going to go there. I knew I was going. I absolutely knew it, and I was so excited for it. And it was the best thing I ever did. And it in ways it really like completed me, and I don't know where I'd be otherwise.
Well, we're so glad you made that decision, and it was an honor to work with you every day I got to, which was many because you were around a lot. But one thing that you started to do once you showed up and started the actual Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting classes was we made you go in front of the camera every day. And I'm going to guess that wasn't new to you after going through the drama experience. How did you translate what you learned in the drama class to your performances on camera?
I think in my head at the time, I felt like I was pretty good. In the grand scheme of things, it probably like wasn't great, but I would say compared to other people who had never done that before, it was a lot better. So I still had like a long way to work, but I'd say I had the advantage as far as like it's not like I was up there shaking that much. It was more or less like controlling my voice, working on my writing, working on tone, deliveries. But it wasn't really like a nurse thing. So I was very happy that I didn't have to deal with those sort of things because I've seen people and it took them a lot to overcome and they eventually did. It was awesome to see. I struggled in some different ways though, and I think the drama really helped me with the comfort and the excitement part. Sometimes probably I was too excited, or sometimes I was probably too animated, but it was it got pretty easy to coach that out of me.
So you said you had other struggles you felt good about, you felt confident in performance, but what were the struggles that you had to overcome during your time going through Full Sail?
I would say it was probably like a lot of writing and delivery. Um, at the beginning, I would probably go too fast. Everything was super fast, and um, I was super smiley. I still have the smile now, but I think
I
it's a
don't
little
think
bit.
there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, but
Unless you're talking about somebody getting robbed or something. Hey, just got his
it
bag of money robbed.
felt a little creepy, constantly like the whole time. So I had to control it a little bit, not you know, not to give it away, but to keep it controlled. And I think it was really kind of difficult at times to work on my speech too, to make sure I didn't like lose an S here or mispronounce a word there. So I would really have to be super careful. And eventually, we ended up getting to where I like to be.
Well, you do have a natural charisma about you, and I don't know if you feel that way or not, but I feel it. How did going through each step of the progression bring out the best in you to bring out the most in that charisma?
Definitely, I'm glad you brought this up because I actually started on the 29-month program. For those listening who don't know, it was one class every month at Full Sail. And then eventually, um, it was August of 21. I got sick of it. I saw all my friends progressing through the program, and they were getting classes that I wanted to do, and I was just like, I'm tired of waiting, and things have kind of changed in my life here in Orlando, and yeah, I'm ready to do two classes a month. I have time for it, so I made the switch, and that for me, I think that's when things took off. A little bit more work at once, but to have a core group to stay with made me better. So to answer your question, really about the progression, like every class I would carry something with me. I would, whether it was in Christine's class, and then carrying that over to the next month where you make packages. If I remember the schedule, I'm trying to remember the schedule of classes. Um, but I remember every month seeing, the projects I would do, the projects I would build. I loved it. I mean, everything was kind of building on top of each other. It felt like getting a skill point every time I finished a class. And the time where I felt like I was super ready was entering into Jeff's project portfolio sixth class, and finally ready to go do my own shows. I had so many creative juices ready from like months before. I mean, it was awesome.
Well, you were a young guy when you came to us, and well, you're probably like 18, 19?
I was 18 years. Really, yeah, it was 18 years old. I was 18 years
Yeah.
old when I started. Yep.
So not everybody is that young. I mean, I'd say kind of the majority of the people we have are either, more either like you, high school going into college, or people who've had a little bit of college coming back. I'd say on campus, that's the majority. But you were one of the young ones in the crowd to start off. How did you feel about that, and how did you handle it?
It didn't bother me, but I knew I had to be careful. And I say be careful because I think it's very easy to make them. It's very easy to make this mistake. When you go to Full Sail, you're also making a choice that you're not going to have the traditional college experience. Well, what is that? Well, it's not, going to a college game day on Saturday. We don't have football, obviously. We're not going to get Reese Davis and McAfee in front of the school, unless something happens in Orlando, but that's different. You're not going to have your frats or sororities, things of that nature. So I think it's easy to make the mistake of driving 6 miles down the road at UCF, hanging out there way too much, and not focusing on school, maybe doing things you're not supposed to. I definitely had a lot of fun. I definitely found some experiences, but it came with a balance. So I think I think I would say I did a pretty good job at that, which I'm happy about. And I think another thing is like, hanging out with the older crowd. It kind of made me ready to kind of experience what I've experienced working right now. I'm always the youngest guy in the room, but you learn to embrace it. And if you just kind of act the way you're supposed to, like, it's not really a thing that hinders you. Thankfully too, I did find people my age to kind of be a kid, I guess you could say, when I wanted to. But it was also really nice to have the adults too, to kind of look at them and see what's expected of me here at the school.
Well, that's Scott Kirk. He was hanging with the older crowd just a couple of weeks ago at SEC Media Days, so he knows what it's like to work with the big boys now. But one way that you did do that and be around the older crowd per se was you showed up at the studio a lot and volunteered. And there is a progression. When you're new, you may have had your on-air dreams, but we start you with, all right, learn all the production stuff, help out with that. And then by the time you get to the end, now you're the star, if you want to use that word properly. But how did it feel to kind of pay your dues at school before you got more and more opportunities in the studio on air?
It was great. I remember the first day I did studio was actually an interactive day. So at the very end, all the kids got to do their own show, and I got to go on camera. So that was great and it was fun. And I was just like, this is what I get to do at school. I get to help out and make TV and watch these people do their assignments, and I get to learn. It's just great. It's like being a backup quarterback. Okay, I can do this. So I was always finding space in there, and maybe there were some classes at Full Sail that I didn't want to do, and I'd rather go to the studio. I'd make time for both, but I loved going and helping out in the sound booth. I loved going and helping people produce their content, even running the prompter. It wasn't just about working in the control room, but it was also about meeting people, you know, being a younger guy in the program and talking to the guy who's about to graduate. That's important. I didn't realize how important it was, but it really is, because that's a guy that you can probably meet 7 years down the line. Maybe that's the guy that hires you. You have no idea. And that was awesome to see, because if you can make an impression as a young guy and the guy's going to graduate, it goes a long way. I kind of realized that, and it was also great to make friends there. I made so many more friends there than I wouldn't have if I didn't, help out. And we all became really good friends, and it kind of became a thing with the friends I've made, which I loved and they loved too. Where it was like, we got to outwork each other. Like, if you're not working, then you're not with us. Like, do your part, man. Like, we didn't come here to only goof around. We're here to work. So if you don't want to work, you're not with us.
And that brought out the best in you and many others. And with those relationships that continued to build and grow came something called Full Sail football. And I don't really know what that is. So could you explain it to me?
That's one of the things that came with it. And I would say, like, my best friends, at Full Sail, I would call them my second family at many times. If they're listening, they're going to laugh a lot at that. But we would always hang out at my house, after everything was done. It's nighttime, it's not really any school going on. And we go to my house, and I was with my roommate, Nick Riley, another graduate of the program, and we were just thinking about the old NCAA football games. It's old now because a new one came out. But, we were saying how Full Sail didn't have a football team, but like maybe we can make a team. So we brought all our friends over. We created ourselves in the game. And we couldn't really create Full Sail, but we chose Bowling Green because they were orange and they were like not like a five-star school. And so we created ourselves. We all picked our positions. We like made our faces, heights, sizes, all that stuff. And we put ourselves in the Sun Belt Conference. we were able to find uh, schools that people created. So we put Rollins College on there. We put Valencia Community College on there. Pretty much every local school that you could think of that like was like related to us. And like we would play them, and we would like simulate the season and see how we did. The funny thing about Rollins is they were our rivals. So I remember like we put Gus Ramsey as the quarterback of the team, and we put like a huge offensive lineman who used to play for us and transferred there. He had like red hair and like a beard, but and it was fun. And it just like the bonding that we got from that was probably the dumbest thing, like a bunch of guys sitting around watching a video game run. But like that's ourselves, I was the fullback. Zando was the cornerback. So was Brandon. They were an island back there. Alfonso the quarterback, Nick Riley the kicker, or really the punter. I won't forget KJ Doyle, wide receiver. And if they're listening, they're laughing now. And the reason why it kind of hits is that the new college football game came out. It's been a big story. We even got to cover it at work. But now that we're all apart, we kind of think to those old days and we're like, that was kind of a lot better than the new game. New game's great, but you guys and our time together was better.
And that's just another example of creativity, right? It's like, how do you make this fun? And we've shared this a lot with you as instructors. Sometimes you got to make it fun for yourself. I mean, yeah, you're trying to reach your audience, but I think the audience can tell when you're having a good time. And if you're making it fun for yourself and you write something in your lead in that helps you to get into it, that's going to help them get into it too. And glad to see that you all did us proud on the game. And I'm sure you were one heck of a fullback. I don't even know who to compare you to. Bronco Nagurski. I don't know.
Full Sail did win a national championship. They ended up defeating Florida in its second season.
Wow.
In the Orange Bowl. And I don't know. I would like to compare myself to like, even though I was a fullback, I think maybe I was like a John Riggins type, throwback.
Right.
My best game of my career, I'll never forget. It was a regular season game against Valencia, and I had like I think 160 yards through the air with 3 touchdowns, and like I think it was 100 yards on the ground with a touchdown.
Wow.
So I had a great game against Valencia. Um, but Darren Healy was our head coach, and Rishi was the athletic director. So
All right.
you did a great job too.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to share my championship ring with everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, you went from having Rollins be your rival there to calling a lot of games for them. And you called some games for Orangewood Christian, did some football there. I know you were really heavy into the play-by-play during your time with us. What were some of the highlights for you of getting to call the live action?
Heron, driven to deep left field. It's got a chance. And the Tars win it. Drop the anchor.
So many to choose from. I always wanted to. I wanted that to be my niche. I wanted people to look at me if they didn't know me or maybe they only heard my name. But, oh yeah, Scott, that's the play-by-play guy. That ended up working out, which was really good. But there's moments I'll never forget calling those Rollins games. I think finally this year in 2024, a lot of the guys I called are probably graduated and gone now, so it makes me feel kind of old. But like there were so many walk-off like games that I called, and I remember there was one against West Florida for Rollins baseball, and Orangewood football was super fun too. What that kind of turned into a memory that I can think of was it was my senior year of college, so really I was about 3 months from graduating, and the Orangewood gig I kind of worked a way into taking it for myself, which sometimes, you just got to make the right move for you. I really wanted it. I wanted football because Rollins didn't offer it. And I was really tight with the athletic director there. He really liked me. And I was able to get a job there and do football plus public address announcing. But football,
Wow.
I was able to be really creative. So I was able to bring another Full Sail student with me, and then I could bring one more Full Sail student to be like a social media reporter, and that ended up being Janir Cooper. Will probably be on the show soon. And she would bring her own camera, shoot the highlights, but she'd put something together every now and then for the Instagram page, and I was like bringing a team there. So I kind of had a team in my last season there, and Parker Way was my color guy with my senior year. And it was a long step from the first time I did it. It was Darren Healy and I. and I was the color guy. So things really grew there. I would say like it was really fun to kind of like almost head a project and also help people out that really deserve it.
It seems like that was another level of you building your leadership skills too. How did you feel you progressed as a leader as you got later on into the Dan Patrick School of Sportscast?
Yeah, and it really kind of hit me that I was, a veteran. Once I, got done with Gordy Hershiser's class, the live shot class, there was a lot more younger people in there, and people were looking up to me. People would ask me questions, and then I was like, okay, now I really need to, if I wasn't already, I really need to make sure I'm doing the right thing. I need to make sure I'm working super hard and, answering people's questions. And I think like one of the biggest parts of leadership is sympathy too. Looking out for the smaller guy or maybe just the person that, you want to make someone feel like they can ask you any question. And I always tried to try to be that way with people and help them out. Be relatable. Um, don't big league somebody. I never want to do that to anybody. So it was really satisfying to kind of take a younger person under their wing because I was in their shoes, and then in a few months watch them grow and like develop skills that I would kind of help them with, or they would show me, and we tune a little bit. So that was awesome.
Well, you got that opportunity to pass it down to somebody who was an important part of your time in Full Sail when, first of all, you received the coveted Mark Mativier jacket, which is a tradition that was passed down by the namesake himself, Mark Mativier, to KJ Doyle, and then to you. And then you decided to pass it down to Parker Way. How honored were you to be part of what's become a pretty exclusive club at our school that just kind of started out of nowhere?
It was first off when KJ gave me the jacket, I had no idea. I just thought he wanted me to watch his show, and to get that was really cool because like when he got the jacket, I was like, oh man, like, that's a cool jacket, man. Like, does it fit you? Like maybe I could wear it because I just like the jacket. I actually own one that's very similar to it now. Um, but like it ended up being like more symbolic than that. It was just kind of like a torch of, hey man, like we expect big things out of you. Like don't screw this up. Like the ball's yours and it's all in your court. Like we believe in you. So like you have a big responsibility and go hit a home run. And that's kind of how I looked at it. And that's what I was kind of looking for too. Being a leader is also quietly looking, and trying to see like, what you could find in people. And at the time, like Parker was a little bit younger than me in the program and great work ethic. And I knew that, that it was a good choice to give it to him. And I always wonder how that jacket's kind of progressing. I know after him, the winner was Tyreek.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not really, I haven't really figured out who's won it after that.
Yeah, so Randy Silver is the one who currently possesses it, and there's some updates coming
That's
soon.
a good guy to have. I see him all the time. So
Yeah, updates coming soon on that. So you may even hear from him. There is a big news update on that jacket, which will be coming soon. But you updated the situation, right? Because from KJ was the first one to kind of present it to someone like as the end of his show after Mark did it. But then you came up with this amazing graphic that you created for it, and you kind of took it to the next level. So I love that like ownership of, okay, what am I going to add to this as we move it forward throughout the whole process. I wanted to ask you too, what was the most challenging thing for you as a student at Full Sail?
it's a great question. I would say the most challenging thing was just to compete. Yeah, I mean, because I'm competing with really talented guys. So like, and they're my best friends, but also they want to beat me and I want to beat them in a certain kind of way, in a very healthy way. So I think that made us really good because I knew that maybe if Daniel was doing a highlight of the Falcons and the Colts, and okay, he's doing that, but maybe I can do this Rams and 49ers game and elevate that and make it different. Something like that, along that nature. The competition, when you're in the right class, really challenges you and almost drives you crazy. But like, it's the best thing for you because, here now, in the real business, you're competing with other stations, trying to get people to tune into you. Why should they? It really helps you get those juices flowing creatively.
Well, let's bring it to here now. What's it like living the dream right now for you?
It's been great. I love WDAM, and it's all about the people. The people you work with make you. I think they kind of make or break things. You could have a really great job, in a really great location, but if you go in every day and people are negative and it's just toxic, how much fun can it really be at the office? I'm in a smaller market now, but I work with great people who are really smart and know what they're doing. And over at Southern Miss, it's been fun to cover them. I've learned that the community has really liked, the smaller college school, and it's been an honor covering them because I like to bring the stories to them. I kind of think about my dad and I watching sports and being a fan of the Marlins or whatever. There's the dads and sons that are the same way about Southern Miss. So I have a promise to, bring that to them. And on a Saturday, if they're off, maybe they tape my stuff and they watch it. I want to bring everybody something to be excited for. But sometimes I sit around on my off days and I'm like, oh man, I have nothing to do. And I think back to Full Sail, and it's like I don't remember ever having like a free like single day to myself. I was always doing something, whether it's like with my friends or like another event I would sign up to do, like a Rollins game or something like that, or going to help out in the studio. Because even if there was no class, my friends and I would hang out and we would still challenge each other to do something along the lines of sportscasting.
I'm curious how much your play-by-play background has elevated your skills as both an anchor and a reporter. A lot of ad-libbing that you'll have to go through, a lot of different problem-solving situations and going with the flow. What have you taken from the play-by-play that makes your job easier in a different role in your current job?
All about the highlights for sure. I'm always trying to come up with something different, on the highlights, whether it's something on a touchdown or a little, reference here or a home run call there. Yeah, I love doing play-by-play, and I'm always trying to find ways to incorporate that love into my daily job as a sports anchor and reporter sometimes. And it's helped me really think on my feet too, because on our Friday night football show, as you guys told us, sometimes highlight goes up there. You have no idea what it says, or maybe you have no idea what's going on. You got to think on your feet. So that stuff has really helped me. It with names too.
Well, football is right around the corner here, Scott. By the time this airs, it'll already be kicked off. You have a lot of chaos that goes on during the next few months here with high school football. Take us behind the scenes and share what a Friday night is like for you.
Yeah, I feel like a Friday night really starts on Monday, because on Monday, wake up in the morning, I do my Zoom press conference with Southern Miss head coach Will Hall, and I get that ready for the week. Right, Monday I go film game of the week. That's our preview that we do on Thursday. So it kind of starts that day. But Friday, I do get to sleep in a little bit. That's really nice because the games start later at night. But it starts in the afternoon, and it's just like planning. Okay, I'm going to game of the week, and that changes every week. I like that a lot. It's kind of like a Kirk Street here in the Pine Belt because I get to go to different schools every week and kind of see what's going on. I like that part. And we're always looking. Okay, this is the biggest game of the week. That's number one. What kind of follows up after that? And it's kind of setting up a meeting with the other team that's filming the game, saying, okay, you're going over here. Hey, like, would you be able to provide me a shot of this head coach? He's facing his former team tonight. Or, hey, like, this game is having a Hawaiian night. Their student section's always pretty good. Like, could you get us a shot of that? They're super entertaining. Sometimes like the fans and the cutaways make the highlights too. Like if it's like a boring game or it's a blowout because some team from Alabama is winning, you got some good people there. You can at least have a good time from that. So I would say the planning is kind of like a teamwork kind of thing.
Man, how do you bring it to life? Because this is so important to so many of those communities in Mississippi. And really, you could take that out of any small market TV job. All these communities, they care deeply about this. How do you make it exciting for them when, for some people watching, it's like, okay, this is just another game in another town? How do you bring it to life?
And that's something I had to learn because growing up in Miami, like it's a bigger city, like high school football, like, it was there, but like we all played at this big park with 4 football fields that different teams would go split and share. Every team here has their own field, so I realized very quickly that over here in the Pine Belt, like they care about this stuff. So I think it was like treating it as if it was college sports, right? Like if I'm leading off a game, I'm going to give you the history. I want you to care about this. Like, hey, listen, West Jones High School, they haven't lost a game since November of 2022, and they're starting their season off against Laurel High School, the runners up in the 6A division. West Jones is the champion. They're 15 minutes away from each other. These kids grew up with each other, so their friends, their family, everyone's going to be watching and knows them. So you got to reel them in and kind of give them that feeling in their stomach. It's all about that, the little ooh thing that kind of draws you in. And then once the kids start hitting each other, I think the work kind of does itself. You just got to do a good job of letting them tell the story and kind of picturing it the way that you think it should be pictured.
That's Scott Kirk. He's a Friday night hero in his own right. And Scott, when you're in the middle of all this action, you end up doing these athlete of the week type stories. I know, what do you call them? The Pine Belt. I have it written down here, right? The players of the Pine Belt.
Yeah, that's our
so you
season
gotta,
preview.
yeah, so you gotta do that for all these different schools. How do you make each one unique so it doesn't just feel like a carbon copy of the last one?
Yeah, that's not easy because there's so many schools. So Taylor and I, we split them up 15 each, and sometimes unique things just kind of fall in your lap. Like I get so excited when I get something different, other than like a quarterback or something. Like I had a 5'7" center via one of our players in the time. It was great. It was a great interview. It's always great to see the smaller guy up front, and I actually watched back some film. It's pretty good. So that was really cool, exciting to see. One time, I went to high school, and maybe over the last couple of years I haven't won that many games, but I go to practice, and who's directing practice that day? The Mississippi Army National Guard. I'm like, this is phenomenal. This is different. I think a lot of times you just got to get lucky and it falls into your lap. If not, then it's just about framing things the right way. It depends on what the school does, how they've done, what their coach says. I've learned with high school kids, sometimes maybe they're not the most chatty.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of ask them a question to say what you want them to say.
Well, earlier we teased this a little bit by discussing how one of my students brought up that Mississippi per capita is as good as any football state in America. What makes Mississippi high school football special to you?
I think it's the environment. It's always going to be full. It's always going to be loud, and you're always going to have a big time play. Really, like this is passion to these people. Some of these people look forward all year to this. Some people don't watch the NFL here. They don't watch college football, but they pay attention to Friday nights. Like we have people who have told me that like they watch our Friday night show in their car. Like they can't wait to get home. They're leaving their team stadium and they're in the parking lot watching our show. It means the world to me that they would do that. And I mean, there's just so much passion I've seen.
Well, a guy who has played in the NFL and is very well known, Brett Favre, has been in the news a bit the last couple of years. Have you been sent on a Brett Favre stakeout story yet?
No, no, I have not. He actually lives in Hattiesburg now because he went to Southern Miss and stuff, and actually have not seen him. He has I don't know if I can say this, but he has a box at the baseball stadium. and it used to be called like Favre Enterprises, and it's kind of not been blank. It's been blank since. So I haven't seen him or anything, but I mean, I've heard some stories about him. Like, people, still kind of like him here in the area. The media people who cover him, he's good to them. I just kind of stay away from it as much as I can, unless I'm asked to do something that I'll deliver. But
Fair enough. But another big name that has come through that area was Frank Gore Jr., son of Frank Gore, who I believe is fourth or third on the all-time rushing. I think he's fourth,
third.
Right? Third. Wow, he's third. That's incredible. Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, Frank Gore. Unreal. But you had a relationship with his son before he was at Southern Miss because he was part of your graduating class back in the Miami area. How did that help you cover him during his time playing for Southern Miss?
Yes, that's right. I remember Frank Gore when he committed to Southern Miss. Like, we were at school and like they all kind of like brought some people down there to watch. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, going to Southern Miss, he flipped from FAU to USM. Okay. Figured he'd do well and hit the transfer portal eventually. Then come to find it, years later, I ended up in Hattiesburg, and as soon as I knew I was coming to Hattiesburg, I knew Frank Gore was on the football team, and I was like, okay, I need to make I need to find a way to make this happen because like we weren't really friends or anything. Like, we had a class together, but then I transferred out of it. So like as soon as football season hit, we did a preview, and I wanted to interview Frank Gore Jr. because I thought it'd be really cool to have like two guys from the same high school in Miami. Do an interview together. I don't think it's been done before in my high school. So, and then after he like realized, like, it remembered me a little bit, things just kind of changed. It was a nice tool to have after a win or during a press conference or whatever. So it was just pretty fun, and to have that unique kind of relationship, especially since we're really close to the same age too. It was always fun to hang around them.
Southern Miss is a big part of your job in many sports. You were sharing with me off camera earlier about how baseball season is really the biggest thing down there because of how good they are. But what has the experience of covering a Division I program as closely as you have done to move your career forward?
Yeah, I would say that it's definitely made me realize like how much I need to be on social media, because it's like a tough balance for that, right? Because I'm working here, I'm trying to provide something for the station, so it's hard to multitask and also provide something on Twitter. But it's just something you have to do, and it's not like WDM requires me to go post stuff on Twitter. But if you want to compete and put yourself out there, you probably should be doing that. So it's a tough balance I've had to learn. But it's all about like, what can you provide that maybe the school won't, or that, the guy at the other channel won't, and yeah, I really love that kind of aspect where it's like, okay, just like me, I'm a Jets fan, right? The Jets win. I want to hear what Coach Salah says. So like, if this guy posts it, I'm gonna listen to it, and like, you won't say thank you, but like, they're appreciative that it's there. So it's all about providing stuff, even if you didn't know that, even if the person didn't know they wanted it, it's there for them, and they probably will.
Well, you mentioned the behind the scenes content that maybe can't be found anywhere else, but to you, what else makes a great social media post that's effective as part of your job?
I would say definitely it's something that kind of hits to the fan, whether it's after an emotional walk-off win, something funny the guy says, or maybe Southern Miss just had a not great loss, and the coach kind of hits hard. I figured, like, if you kind of quote what the guy said, that was like impactful in that 40-second bite, it's gonna get some clicks. But there's also your funny stuff too. Like, I've had, okay, so I want to mention this. I've learned Southern Miss has a very unique fan base as far as burner account goes. Like, so burner accounts, like, all their fans will make these accounts like that are just random, and then they'll just like make a bunch of funny tweets on them, right? So for example, the Southern Miss baseball announcer, his name is John Cox. So like, they'll make an account and they'll call it like, Southern Miss John Cox, and he'll just like post a bunch of funny stuff. Or at the baseball park, there's a big Coke bottle sign. So somebody makes an account called USM Coke sign, and then during the season, they say a bunch of funny fan stuff, as you would expect. Anyways, at the end of baseball season, I was kind of on a mission to uncover who was behind this stuff. So
Love it.
in Knoxville, at the regional, I saw a bunch of rowdy, hilarious fans, and I was like, I feel like these guys are like, running some burner accounts, because every time something would happen, they would all like laugh with each other, and then they all go on their phones. So I like, and they recognized me, and I talked to them. They were cool. I asked one of the guys if he'd get interviewed. He did, and he basically said, hey, some people don't like the burners, but they're really good for the fan base, stuff like that. So I did a whole story about it once baseball season ended, posted that to social media. I'm pretty sure that's my most famous tweet, like, in the community. It's got like over 45,000 clicks on it, and that's the one that had people talking, because it was like a mix of funny. Some people were kind of teed off that I would even give them the time of day, and other people just thought like, oh my gosh, like the burners got TV time. So like, as far as social media goes, there is the Super Bowl of it all, in my opinion.
That just shows how observant you are, though, because that's the hard thing with something like that, right? It could be absolutely anybody. How do you find out? And because you were paying attention and you noticed these things, you were able to essentially uncover who these burner accounts are, where otherwise they may have been anonymous. So great. That's just really good enterprise reporting, Scott. And I'm glad it took off as much as it did, because that's a special thing.
Oh, thank you.
Do you have a favorite day? I guess I'll ask it this way. What was your favorite day on the job so far?
I would say my favorite day on the job. Favorite day is probably. I'm gonna go with. I like this. If you don't mind, I'm gonna give you a favorite moment, because
Okay, let's do it.
It was earlier this spring. I'm in Montgomery for the Sun Belt Baseball Championship, and Southern Miss wins it again. But the thing is that they're losing to Georgia Southern, and they come back and win it. Well, that's the second year in a row USM wins the Sun Belt Baseball Conference. They get the automatic bid, and I'm on the field. I'm filming it. I'm by myself this time. I realize like how lucky I am. I've gotten to cover this team 2 years in a row, winning the conference championship. There are people with bigger markets with teams that didn't even make it here. I'm very lucky. I've been in this town for 5 days, on my trip working, and I get to see this. Like, I'm lucky. So I guess you could say like that's a favorite day, but I look at it as a moment.
I could hear the emotion in your voice as you said that it really meant something to you. And off camera, before we started this recording, we had a conversation about being present in the moment when it's easy to look ahead and think about all your work responsibilities. How do you handle that balance of, hey, I am ambitious. I want to do the best at my job. I want to continue to grow in this career, but also recognize the moment, how special it is what you do?
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better. It's still a back and forth kind of thing. I'll tell you this: I just got back from a nice vacation. So when I was going on the vacation, I left work and I was driving to the airport. And as I leave work, I had like worked so many insane hours to just provide content when I sleep, because I can't let the team down. Like, that's just kind of like, I don't want them to pick up my slack. If the news anchor's off, I don't got to do his job, right? So I finish all my work after doing some insane stuff to provide them while I'm gone. And I'm driving to the airport, and like, my hands are shaking. I'm like, should I go back to work? Like, am I okay? And then I kind of took a breath and was like, yes, you're good. You're good. And I had a great vacation. And toward the end of it, I was ready to come back, because I was sick of missing out. I always want to be around, and I think it just goes back to the people I work with. I love them so much, and, they're my friends, and I don't want to let them down either. So I want to come back, and, I want to help them out.
Well, it's great to hear that you have a team like that. And I know you had that at Full Sail too. So the fact that you've had all this, brotherhood and family feel to it it's really special. I'm glad you've experienced that at a young age, and you've had a chance to interact with several Full Sail people and grads over time. I know you were recently at SEC Media Days and you saw Aaron Mukes and Michelle Montaigne there, right? What was it
Yes.
like kind of collaborating as part of this family of Full Sail in the middle of one of the most important media events going on at the time?
Yeah, it was awesome. There was so many people there. And I saw Aaron there, and I was like, hey, Aaron, like, you don't know me, but I know you. I'm Scott Kirk. I went to Full Sail, and I know about you because, you've been an example so many times. So, like, once that happened, like, his his face kind of changed a little bit because, he was kind of in the same boat as me, smaller market guys, like, trying to, you know, really plant our stake here at the media days around some bigger folks. So, that really made us more comfortable. And then on the last day there, I kind of had a feeling I'd bump into Michelle because she just got the job in Dallas and Texas was speaking that day. But it was just really good to see her because she's super busy. I haven't seen her since in a while. So we definitely had a good couple moments just catching up. And I think what better way to run into somebody, you think about and you really liked in college, I work with them, do what we both love to do.
Well, you're different people since you graduated. You're the same people and you all have big hearts and good hearts, but you are now working professionals, and we couldn't be prouder of all of you. And another working professional you get to see frequently, Ellie Davis, who works at your station. How do you kind of represent Full Sail Pride with Ellie at WDAM?
All the time. And I think the best compliment I got is like our news director. She's like, "Hey, like I want more Full Sail guys. Like, you guys are phenomenal." And that's great. I mean, Ellie has been really a joy to work with, and like every time I see her, it's a treat because like she is the morning anchor there. It's on sports. It's like totally different schedules, but every once in a while she'll fill in, or I'll just be working super late for some insane reason, and I'll get to see her in the morning. But like there've been a couple times where I'm driving back from an event, and I get back at like 4 in the morning, and then she's there. But otherwise, like we're always keeping in contact. And again, it's kind of that thing where like we root for each other. She's a part of the team too. She's even going as far as like she works in the morning on a Friday. She'll get her sleep, and then she'll help us out on Friday night football.
Oh, that's
And,
awesome.
she'll be and then she'll be a reporter. It's awesome to work with her there. I mean, just to have that sense of home in a new place.
Love it. Well, let's move on to the final big question. What are your future dreams within this business?
I've so obviously I've always wanted to be a play-by-play broadcaster. So like the goal is to get there eventually. But as I've been doing this, I've also been comfortable with like having multiple dreams is okay. Sometimes you don't have to have just one dream. Like I think a dream of mine is like I really want to make it up to MLB Network. I love that. I would love to do what they do. I mean, I love talking baseball. I can talk it 24/7. But not only that, I love the way they operate. Just learning television and still watching them. They're the only ones that I watch, and I'm just like amazed at how did you create that? That's awesome. I want to be a part of that team, right? I feel like you guys can make me better, right? So like that's a dream of mine, and I would say another dream too is like just going back home one day in Miami, like like if that's an option, like why not take it? I've really realized the value of family being away from home for so long.
Yeah, sure.
It's maybe stronger, but like if there's an opportunity to work back home, why not take it? I mean, I would be happy there too. So it's
Represent the
kind of those
305.
right. It's kind of those three things, and I kind of hope maybe one day they would all be wrapped into one, like working for the Marlins or something one day, or being a broadcaster down there. But I think I have to remind myself that everything I do now matters, right? Like working the extra day is going to help you 10 years from now when you take that day off because you're going to have earned it. Like, you're going to be good enough, hopefully, to where, like, you can kind of have things the way you want them to.
And how is everything you are doing now helping you to reach all those dreams?
I would say it's just getting my name out there and just sometimes it's falling flat on my face, yeah, and then getting up and learning from it. But I would say overall, it's just preparing me to be way more confident in myself. Like I had confidence coming out of college, but you develop a different sense of confidence in the real world, knowing that you can do this. Like after I got back from SEC Media Days and competing with with so many other people, I realized I can do almost anything. Throw it at me, and I'll go handle it. And I've kind of loved that sense of finding something and then doing something with it to provide for people to watch.
Well, and that pride that you take in being, as you were saying earlier, the younger one in, right? You were 20 years old, not even 21 yet, and you're working at a station with all people who are full-time professionals. How does that continue to give you pride and something that fuels you to just be the best and kind of maybe be ahead of the curve of people who are older than you?
And so when I started, I was a baby, 20 years old, and sometimes people will look at me and they'll be like, "Oh, like you're 20," and then like they look at me and they think, "Okay, he's 20 years old, so he's either just like super young or he's really good." So for me, it's like, okay, now I have to prove to you that I belong here, right? Even if I am in a small market, you've been here for a while, maybe you got hired here at 23 or whatever. I need to prove to you that I belong. So I've always tried to get the one up. And sometimes the older people, they'll kind of look at me and think I'm just a kid. Well, no, I now got to prove you wrong too, and earn your respect a little bit and show you that I can do this, and I'm just as capable as you are. And as I'm getting older, it's really just giving me a good advantage because I'm 22 now. So maybe if I apply for something else, one day too, I'll be kind of up against the guy who just got out of college. We're the same age. We're still the same youth. So I mean, it all goes back to Full Sail, really, because they're the ones that helped me get out in the workforce early on.
Well, let's bring it back to Full Sail here as we get into this final section of our nice chat. It's been a pleasure having Scott on here today. I like to call it the dream sequence. I throw you 3 quick questions, and you've got to give me fast answers of different dream this, dream that, okay? So as you may know, the Olympics that just ended, they have something, the 3-on-3 basketball that happens right now. We talked a little bit about Full Sail football, and I know you have experience watching the Big Three in Miami with LeBron, Bosh, and Wade, but who would be, you and 2 others, your Full Sail Big Three for Olympic style basketball on the court?
Oh boy. Well, I'm gonna take KJ Doyle. He hooped pretty good, and who else was a baller? Hanky Hazelton was a baller. We actually, a couple guys, I didn't, but they signed up for like rec basketball. I didn't sign up because I'm not really good at basketball, but like they didn't win a single game in that rec. So we'll see how that Olympic team does.
Whatever, you don't win in the rec league, you'll win Olympic gold. Who cares, right? You're good to go. Okay, dream single day play-by-play gig. So you get 1 gig, 1 day, anywhere in the world. What are you doing? What sport are you calling?
I'm going to call the Miami Marlins over at Lone Depot Park.
Love that. Bring it back to the roots.
Yeah.
All right, final one. Dream, Scott Kirk, sandwich in Hattiesburg. Maybe Brett Favre will go and buy one.
Dream sandwich?
Yeah, what would you put on the Scott Kirk sandwich?
Okay, well, it's gonna be boring. The Scott Kirk sandwich. Well, yeah, so it's gonna come on like a sourdough hoagie. They have a lot of sourdough here, and we're gonna put olive oil on the bread. Right, we're gonna toast that up. Then we're gonna get the rarest roast beef there is. Put that on there. Get some crispy bacon, provolone cheese, a little bit of lettuce, salt and pepper. That's it.
That wasn't that boring. Like, I get what you're saying it being simple, but like you were very descriptive with that. So that was not boring at all. Brett Favre's gonna buy one every day the next week. Okay. You got that order.
The Scotty sandwich, you can call it.
Okay. Let's get that. You might be able to get some money out of that. I don't know what your station's policy is for that, but hopefully you can get a little side income from that. All right, final question. What final advice do you have to anyone coming through our program or anyone else who's watching this?
If you're going through the program at Full Sail right now, just keep working your tail off. I promise you. You're probably thinking to yourself, like, I'm tired. Like, I want to do this. I know you are, but like, it's gonna add up. Some of you working for free. I work for free a lot too. It all goes back. Years later, you realize how it does, but it's all worth something. And if you're doing it with people you love, you're doing it with your friends, it won't be that bad, and just really give everything you can, because when you do, you're going to get everything out when you walk that stage. And, people watching, it's going to be a lot of family and a lot of my friends here. I wouldn't be here without you guys. I talk to a lot of you guys every day. I talk to, some of my friends when I can. I'm so appreciative when they contact me, because we're all busy people. But I wouldn't be like the person I am. I wouldn't be the sportscaster I am without the relationships I've had in my life.
Wise words from a wise young man. That does it for episode number 37, the Carnell Lake edition of the Livin the Dream video podcast. That was Scott Kirk. I want to thank Scott very much for taking time during busy high school football season to be with us. Everybody else, keep on living your dream.